We learned so many carbon compounds until now. We'll be mainly studying two compounds now, ethanol and ethanoic acid, as they are very, very commonly used. The first compound we'll be studying is ethanol. What is ethanol? It's nothing but CH3CH2 eth, two carbons, OH, or C2H5OH is ethanol. The physical properties of ethanol: melting point 156 Kelvin, boiling point 351 Kelvin. It is soluble in water. Now we are going to do one experiment. This activity is in our textbook. What we are going to do in this experiment is, we are going to take ethanol in a beaker. To that we add hydrogen. You will see bubbles forming. Now if bubbles are forming coming out, there is gas formed. You have to test this gas. We know gas testing for three gases now: hydrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide. So if they are telling you to test the gas in the activity, it has to be one of these three gases only. Or if it is brown color, it's maybe nitrogen gas or bromine gas. We've learnt it already in the previous chapter. So now among these three gases you have to test. If I take a matchstick and I go there and it pops, there's a pop sound, then it is hydrogen gas. If the burning increases, it's oxygen gas. It's a supporter of burning. Carbon dioxide gas, you pass the gas through calcium hydroxide, that's lime water, and the solution turns milky. I hope you remember that. So now I've taken ethanol and I have put sodium in the beaker. I saw bubbles. The first thing I'll do is check for pop sound. I light the matchstick and take it near the beaker. It burns with a pop sound. That means what? Hydrogen gas is liberated. Hydrogen gas is liberated. So here H is liberated. H goes away from here. So it becomes CH3CH2O. One sodium goes and sits there. H is liberated along with one more H. So H2. So one ethanol gives one more H. So it needs one more ethanol. Each ethanol needs one sodium. So there are two sodiums and there are two. What is this called? This compound is called sodium ethoxide. Sodium ethoxide. Okay. So that was the first activity. Next, I have taken ethanol here and at 443 Kelvin I heat it up and I add acid to it. Sulfuric acid, concentrated sulfuric acid, just a few drops. Concentrated sulfuric acid is a good dehydrating agent. Dehydrating means removal of water. So now it's going to remove water from here, OH and H. So this one lost one bond, this one lost one bond. They both have empty bonds. So they're like, what do? We want to get satisfied. They shake hands. So now this bond shakes hand with this and this compound therefore becomes C double bond C and H, 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 H plus H2O. Ethanol on reaction with concentrated sulfuric acid at 443 Kelvin gets converted to ethene. There are many uses of ethanol. It's used in soaps and cosmetics. It's used for the manufacturing of drinks like wine, beer, whiskey. It's also used as a lab reagent. In labs, obviously, you use it for many reactions. It's used in medicines, cough syrups. That's why when you drink a cough syrup, you feel a little sleepy. Alcohol effect. Okay. So what is denatured alcohol? In industries, they use a lot of ethanol. Ethanol can be drunk by us, right? You can drink it. But in the industries, we want to make it unfit for drinking. We don't want anyone to be drinking that. So we make it unfit for drinking by adding poisonous substances in it, like methanol. Methanol is poisonous. You drink methanol, you will not survive. So if you add a few drops of methanol to your alcohol that you're using, that's ethanol in your industries, the ethanol is no longer drinkable. So ethanol will no longer be drinkable if you add poisonous substances like methanol or a dye in it. So such combinations, such mixtures are called denatured alcohol or even methylated spirit. So I hope you know what is denatured alcohol. May come for 1 mark. The next important compound we'll be studying is ethanoic acid. Ethanoic acid, eth, so C and C, oic acid, so one should be COOH, CH3COOH is ethanoic acid also called acetic acid. Common name, we already know that. Ethanoic acid freezes at 290 Kelvin. 290 Kelvin is approximately 17 degrees Celsius. 17 degrees Celsius is very easily achievable. So many states in India itself have that 17 degrees Celsius during winters, right? So acetic acid, ethanoic acid becomes ice, like freezes very easily. So when it freezes, what? When you take water, you can see clearly. Once it freezes, you see a cloudy structure, right? So glacial structure. Because it freezes so easily, this is also referred to as glacial acetic acid. The boiling point of ethanoic acid is 391 Kelvin. It is soluble in water. It turns blue litmus red. Why? Acids turn blue litmus red. So it turns blue litmus red. It is also an acid. If I take 5 to 8% of ethanoic acid, that means I take 5 to 8% of acetic acid, ethanoic acid and dissolve it in water, then this mixture is called vinegar. This itself is what you use for your Chinese dish cooking. So now ethanoic acid, how is it prepared? You already know, we studied that under oxidation, right? So ethanol is converted to ethanoic acid in the presence of alkaline KMnO4, or in other words, ethanol is oxidized to ethanoic acid. Preparation part you already know, it's already covered, so I won't do it again. Now let's study a few properties. If I take ethanoic acid and I put sodium in it, do I observe hydrogen bubbles? Do I hear a pop sound? Yes, same as what we learnt in ethanol. So Na will go and sit in the place of H. So CH3COO Na, but it needs 2H, so it needs 2 acetic acid, 2Na2. So this reaction here, Na replaces H, hydrogen gas is liberated. Ethanoic acid reacts with sodium to release hydrogen gas, and what is this? I told you, if you remove H from a carboxylic acid, the group becomes an O8 group. We already studied that under nomenclature. So if I remove the Na here, ethanoic acid becomes ethanoate. So sodium ethanoate. Next, acetic acid is an acid. Sodium hydroxide is a base. Acid and base react to form a salt and water. So the Na will go and sit here. CH3COO Na plus OH takes this H and becomes water. This is nothing but a neutralization reaction. Next, CH3COOH along with Na2CO3. Whenever there is a carbonate group, there is definitely CO2 gas released. Acid, Na2CO3 and NaHCO3 are basic in nature. So obviously there will be a salt and water also formed. In all the cases, sodium ethanoate. Similarly, instead of sodium carbonate, if you put sodium bicarbonate or sodium hydrogen carbonate, you observe the same reaction. CO2 is released, both it's acidic and basic, so salt and water is formed. Therefore, these two reactions are releasing carbon dioxide gas. If you make ethanoic acid react with sodium carbonate or sodium bicarbonate, this is an activity in the textbook, a gas is released. How do you test the gas? If you pass it through lime water or calcium hydroxide solution, it turns the solution milky, hence confirming that the gas is carbon dioxide. Okay. Under ethanoic acid, we have one more property to study, esterification. What is esterification? You'll understand with this experiment. Activity 4.8. In this activity, what we do is, we take a test tube containing ethanol and ethanoic acid. So we have taken ethanoic acid along with ethanol. To this, we add some acid and we heat up the mixture and keep stirring the mixture. If we do that, you start observing a sweet smelling substance. Nice smell, the odor is good. You can smell a good fragrance. So what is happening here? acid dehydrating agent removes H from here. It removes H and here it removes OH. So this group becomes CH3COO, referred to as ethanoate. Referred to as ethanoate. So CH3COO, and here the ethyl group goes and sits there. Why? Because the C here needs one more bond. Here also the C needs one bond. They both combine. So C2H5. C2H5 is ethyl. CH3COO is ethanoate. Ethyl ethanoate. We learned this under nomenclature in which part? Esters. Yes. So the esters formed here. You can show the removal of water. I'll just show you with respect to the bonds. Look here. CH3COH plus CH3CH2OH. Fine. This loses the whole water molecule. This loses only H. So this carbon here wants one bond. This oxygen here wants one bond. They both form. They both combine. Understood? So when they combine, how does it look? CH3C double bond OO. To this there is CH2CH3. Ethyl group here. Fine. So in general, can I say alcohols react with carboxylic acid in the presence of acid to produce a sweet smelling substance called ester. This process is itself called esterification. So alcohols react with carboxylic acids in the presence of acid to give esters. These esters are sweet smelling substances, right? Hence they are also used in perfumes. Esters are used to make perfumes. Your perfumes give you a good fragrance. Nothing but esters. This ester can be converted back to ethanoic acid and ethanol. It can be converted back to ethanoic acid and ethanol in the presence of a base or an acid, usually in the presence of a base. So ester can be converted back to ethanol and ethanoic acid in the presence of a base. This reaction is called saponification. Why? Because it's used in the manufacturing of soaps. So saponification. A few uses of ethanoic acid. Vinegar is nothing but your ethanoic acid diluted, right? So vinegar is used in pickles. It's also used as a food additive in a lot of dishes. It's used in the production of polymers. Ethanoic acid is used to manufacture ester. We just learnt esterification. And since esters are sweet smelling substances, they are used as flavoring agents in food and also to make perfumes. Page 74, question 1. How would you distinguish experimentally between an alcohol and a carboxylic acid? In the properties of carboxylic acid, we saw that carboxylic acid reacts with sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonates to give you what? To release carbon dioxide gas. If you pass that carbon dioxide gas through lime water, it turns the solution milky, right? So ethanoic acid reacts with carbonates and bicarbonates. The question here is, do alcohols react? Alcohols do not react with sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate. So easy to distinguish. You have two liquids, let us say alcohol and carboxylic acid. So I have alcohol and carboxylic acid, both are colorless. So I have alcohol here and I have carboxylic acid here. To both of them I will add sodium carbonate. In one I observe no reaction. In the other I observe CO2 gas formed. So in which one CO2 gas is formed, that itself is your carboxylic acid. After you write that, just write on the reactions. What are oxidizing agents? We already studied substances that help in addition of oxygen in a reaction is called an oxidizing agent. So now we move to the next and final topic, soaps and detergents. So before we understand that in detail, we'll conduct a few experiments and note down observations. Activity 4.10, we take two test tubes in which we add oil and water. In one more test tube, we add oil, water and soap. you will observe that once I add this and I mix them well, okay, I mix them well and then I leave the test tubes, the oil and water immediately separate out. Oil will be on top and water will be below. Oil and water immediately separate out. But here the solution is milky, it's cloudy, it's cloudy. It's white in color and the whole solution becomes white. But if you leave it for a few hours, after some time, then again this will also separate out into oil and water. But as soon as you mix it and keep them, this immediately separates out into oil and water and this is cloudy. Basically, it's white particles everywhere. The oil and water is full scattered around over here. Why, you will understand when I explain soaps and detergents in detail. Activity 4.1. So we take soap and we add it to distilled water, pure water, and we take soap and we add it to hard water. Hard water is the water that you get in your house on the regular taps, not the drinking water that you have a separate connection for. This hard water have a few salts mixed in them, usually calcium and magnesium salts. In them you have calcium magnesium ions in the form of sulfates or something. Okay, so there are salts in this hard water. Now we mix soap with hard water and we mix soap with distilled water. When you mix soap with distilled water, you see there's enough foam forming. You know foam, those white bubbles that form when you mix soap and water? Yes. But when you mix soap with hard water, there is very less foam formed and one white color substance is formed. Basically, when you have bath, you're using hard water on your body and you're putting soap. After you have bath, you can see one kind of white substance, and when you put soap on your body, you don't get so much lather, no foam. But you put shampoo, shampoo gives you a lot of lather, but soap does not. Why? And that soap, when you put it on the body, after you wash it, you can see some white color substance. It's not a lot of foam. That substance is called scum. It forms scum. So soap with hard water forms scum. Why? We will study. One more activity to go and then we'll note it down why. Next activity 4.12. We take hard water and now we add soap to hard water and detergent to hard water. Soap with hard water we already know gives less foam and scum is formed. Yes, hard water with detergent gives more foam. So now can you tell me the shampoo that you use in your hair to wash your hair is what? Detergent or soap? Detergent, because it's giving so much foam. Then what is the difference between the soap and the detergent? We will understand. Soaps. So soaps are nothing but sodium and potassium salts of fatty acids. Fatty acids are carboxylic acids that have a very, very long carbon chain. So very, very long carbon chain. With that we have a sodium molecule or a potassium molecule attached. Those are nothing but soaps. We will study that in detail. These soaps form insoluble substance with the calcium and magnesium ions present in hard water. I told you hard water has salt in it. So there are calcium and magnesium ions in it. So when you mix soap and hard water, this soap reacts with that hard water and forms one kind of insoluble substance. That insoluble substance only is that white part I called scum. Soaps are biodegradable. They do not cause pollution. Now we understood something about what is soap. Let's see how they work. The next topic we'll be studying is cleansing action of soaps. Cleansing action of soap. So this is a soap molecule. This is nothing but a long carbon chain. And this is nothing but your ionic part that usually has a sodium or potassium. So what is this? This is the long carbon chain. And this here is the ionic part. The long carbon chain is water repelling. It's water repelling. That's why referred to as hydrophobic. This is a hydrophobic. Phobia means fear. It gets scared of water. Hydrophobic. Because that's why it repels water. Ionic part is water loving, called hydrophilic. Why is it water loving? In H2O and higher classes you learn water is like a polar molecule. That means it somehow forms one kind of positive negative charge. This is ionic, it also has a charge, so they attract. For now you just know it's water loving, it's enough. So water loving, referred to as hydrophilic. Now since this does not like water, it dissolves in whom? It dissolves in oil, or it gets attracted to oil. This here is water loving. It gets dissolved in water. So now when you put soap, you first, what do you do when you have, suppose something is dirty, you have oil or grease, you first put water, then you add how much ever soap you want, correct? So now there is water and oil to which you are adding soap. So we'll say we have a oil particle here or grease, and here full it's water. When a soap molecule comes, this soap molecule, this is hydrophilic, loves water, hates water, but it's okay with oil. So it will go and get attracted towards oil. So like that, many soap molecules will settle around the oil particle like this. So basically closing the whole oil molecule away from water, because all of them get attracted like this. So the ionic end loves water and is away from the oil particle. The hydrocarbon chain does not like water but is okay with oil, so it gets attracted to oil. This way all the soap molecules cover the oil particle, and this formation is called micelle formation. And here the oil particle is therefore not coming in contact with water, because the soap, it's covered all with soap. Understood? It's covered with the hydrocarbon part of the soap. This micelle formation only, you remember that activity, we put oil, water, and we put oil, water and soap, and we mixed them and we kept them separate. Oil and water in the first one got bifurcated very easily. In the second one it was cloudy. Why? Because of micelle formation. Once these micelles form around the oil particles, they all scattered here in the solution. This is called emulsion. Due to this, the white light that comes inside gets scattered equally because the particles are big in size. Therefore, this solution appears cloudy. Understood why cloudy? So we got the answer for cloudy now. So now we've got the micelle, we formed the micelle, we know where the oil particle is. Now how do we remove the oil from the clothes? Micelles have been formed on your clothes. On your clothes you put oil and micelles have been formed. What happens next? So you don't have to draw this in the exam, but how much is given in the note section, it's enough. You draw the soap molecule, draw the micelle and explain. Even if you draw this, it's fine. So here we first have an oil greasy particle on the surface to which we add soap. The soap molecules, the hydrocarbon part is attracted to the grease or dirt and the other part is attracted to water. So they all settle like this. You can see they are all forming around. Finally, they all form around the oil particle. They form, and now when you flush it with water, when you put water, what happens? Those molecules are attracted to water. They get lifted off the oil substance gets lifted off and is cleaned. This is called cleansing action. See, now when I put water here, I flush it with lots of water. One, it will move the particle very easily. Two, all these are attracted to water, so it will go with the flow of water and the particle gets lifted off from the dirty surface. So that was the cleansing action of soaps. Now we touch detergents. So in detergents, their soaps were sodium and potassium salts of fatty acids. These are sodium and potassium salts of sulfonic acids. Detergents are soluble with the hard water. It reacts with the calcium magnesium ions and forms soluble products. Therefore, it forms good lather or good foam. Detergents are not biodegradable. They are considered as threat to the environment. They are pollutants. Detergents are used to manufacture soap and even products for cleaning clothes. You use the detergent powder to wash clothes, it forms a lot of foam. Yes? So that is about detergents. Detergents are used in making shampoo. That's why it produces good lather. And detergents are also used to manufacture products for cleansing clothes or for cleaning clothes. That is why while you wash clothes, you put some powder in your bucket, and what do you see? You find a lot of lather. Page 76, question 1. Would you be able to check if water is hard by using a detergent? No. Detergent with hard water also forms good lather. Detergent with soft water also forms good lather. So if I add detergent to both are giving me lather, I will not be able to recognize who is the hard water among them. But if I use soap, it is possible, because if I add soap to soft water, lather, but soap to hard water forms scum, not enough lather, less foam. You can recognize who is hard. So using detergent, the answer is no. Second question. People use a variety of methods to wash clothes. Usually after adding the soap, they beat the clothes on a stone or beat it with a paddle, scrub with a brush, or the mixture is agitated in a washing machine. Why is agitation necessary to get clean clothes? Agitation is you nicely move it. Agitation is in the washing machine. If you've observed the washing machine, if you put it for 1 hour, in between at least for 10 to 15 minutes, it will spin around very fast. It's agitating the clothes. Okay. So why do we need agitation? Agitation is necessary because, see, when you add the soap molecules here, it starts forming around the micelle is formed around the oil particle, but it is still in contact with the surface. So you want the tails. So I forgot to mention, in a soap molecule, this part is called the tail and this part is called the head. So the tail is not attached to some part of the oil, right? We want the tail to attach all over, then only it can get lifted off. So what we do, we agitate it. When you agitate it, you're making the molecule, you are forcing the oil molecule to lift up. So when you're forcing it to lift up, it gives chance for the other soap molecules to attach its tails to the oil particle. Now it's attached. Now when you put water, it's flushed away. When you flush it with water, it goes away, which is why agitation is necessary. This finally brings us to the end of the chapter, and for all the question answers, it's all written in the notes section. Please go through the notes section, the textbook section, and also take up the practice test to get a better grip on the chapter. All the very best, and thank you.